In the dry plains of Mesopotamia, more than 5,000 years ago, a cluster of mud brick walls and temples rose that would forever change human history. This was Uruk, a city so ancient it gave us kings myths, writing itself, and perhaps the world's very first taste of urban life. But what was Uruk really like, and why does it still matter today? Let's journey back 5,000 years into the land between the rivers, where civilization as we know it first began. Uruk is often described as the world's first true city, while humans had lived in villages for thousands of years. Uruk represented something new, a permanent, large-scale urban settlement with tens of thousands of people, complex government, monumental temples, and a social system that required order and administration. Before Uruk, people gathered in small agricultural villages. But around 4000 BCE, a transformation known as the Urban Revolution began in Mesopotamia. Farming surpluses allowed some people to specialize in other tasks: building, trading, crafting, and governing. This specialization required a hub, and that hub became Uruk. At its peak, Uruk may have been home to 50,000 to 80,000 inhabitants, an enormous population for the time. The city stretched across more than 1,000 acres, with a massive wall said to have been built by its legendary king, Gilgamesh. This was not just a village. This was the first taste of urban civilization. Uruk lay in southern Mesopotamia, in modern-day Iraq, between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers. The region, often called the Fertile Crescent, had rich alluvial soil perfect for farming. Irrigation systems tapped into the rivers, producing surpluses of wheat, barley, and dates. But Mesopotamia was more than fertile land. It was also a crossroads. With few natural barriers, the area was open to trade, migration, and invasion. Uruk benefited from this central position. Goods like timber from Lebanon, metals from Anatolia, and precious stones from Persia flowed into the city. In return, Uruk exported its own products: pottery, textiles, and grain. The city's location also made it vulnerable. Floods, droughts, and shifting rivers challenged Uruk's survival. Yet its resilience and ingenuity helped it thrive for centuries. The story of Uruk begins around 4000 BCE. Initially, it was just one of many small farming settlements. But its access to fertile land and trade routes helped it grow. By 3500 BCE, Uruk had become the dominant city-state of southern Mesopotamia. Archaeologists call this period the Uruk period because the city's influence spread across the region. One of the most striking features of Uruk was its monumental architecture. The city boasted massive temple complexes like the Eanna district, dedicated to the goddess Inanna, and the Anu Ziggurat, a massive stepped platform topped by a temple to the sky god Anu. These temples were not just religious sites, they were also centers of administration, economy, and political power. Uruk's rulers oversaw massive building projects, trade networks, and agricultural systems. They developed bureaucratic tools to manage resources, which led to one of Uruk's greatest innovations: writing. Perhaps Uruk's greatest legacy was the invention of writing. Around 3200 BCE, scribes in Uruk began pressing wedge-shaped marks into clay tablets, creating what we now call cuneiform. At first, these symbols were used for record-keeping, tracking grain, labor, and trade. But over time, they expanded to laws, stories, and myths. Writing transformed human history, allowing knowledge to pass across generations. Uruk also pioneered new forms of governance and urban planning. The city was divided into districts, each with specialized functions. The temples acted as economic hubs, redistributing goods and organizing labor. Craftsmen produced textiles and pottery on an industrial scale, which archaeologists call the first evidence of mass production. Technological innovations also flourished. The potter's wheel, advanced irrigation, and bronze metallurgy all appeared in or around Uruk. This combination of innovation and centralization is why scholars call Uruk the birthplace of urban civilization. Religion was at the heart of Uruk. The goddess Inanna, associated with love, fertility, and war, was the city's patron deity. The Ayana temple complex was dedicated to her, and festivals celebrated her role as protector of Uruk. But Uruk is perhaps most famous as the setting of the Epic of Gilgamesh, the world's oldest known epic poem. Gilgamesh, described as a semi-divine king, supposedly ruled Uruk around 2700 BCE. The epic tells of his adventures with his companion Enkidu, his quest for immortality, and his struggles with the gods. In the poem, Gilgamesh boasts of Uruk's great walls, vast fortifications that symbolized both the city's might and its people's achievements. Whether myth or memory, the epic reflects Uruk's significance in the ancient imagination. What was it like to live in Uruk? Archaeology gives us glimpses. Uruk was a city of social hierarchies. At the top were kings and priests who controlled temples and political life. Beneath them were administrators, scribes, and skilled workers. Farmers, laborers, and slaves made up the majority. Trade thrived in Uruk's markets, with goods arriving from distant lands. Craftsmen made pottery, jewelry, and textiles. Farmers cultivated wheat, barley, and dates, while herders raised sheep and goats. The city was bustling, noisy, and alive. Narrow streets wound between mud brick houses. Temples and public squares dominated the skyline. Festivals brought color and ritual, with music, feasts, and offerings to the gods. This daily life made Uruk not just the first city, but the first urban experience. Uruk did not exist in isolation. Archaeologists have found evidence of Uruk colonies and trade outposts across Mesopotamia and even into Anatolia, Syria, and Iran. The so-called Uruk expansion spread the city's influence far beyond its walls. Uruk's systems of writing, administration, and religion shaped later Mesopotamian civilizations, from the Sumerians and Akkadians to Babylon and Assyria. In many ways, Uruk laid the blueprint for city life across the ancient world. By around 2000 BCE, Uruk began to decline. New powers rose in Mesopotamia, and the rivers shifted course. Though the city continued to exist for centuries, it never regained its former glory. But its legacy endured. Writing, urban planning, monumental architecture, and mythology all trace back to Uruk. Even the word Iraq is thought to derive from Uruk. Uruk matters because it was humanity's first great experiment in urban life. The challenges its people faced, inequality, resource management, climate change, political power, are challenges we still face today. When we look at the ruins of Uruk, we are not just seeing broken mud brick walls. We are looking at the very beginning of the human story of civilization. From myths of Gilgamesh to the invention of writing, Uruk was where human history took its first giant leap into civilization. Though the city itself has crumbled, its story still shapes who we are today. Like and subscribe for more travel history adventures.